Getting the need to move over sign. Got one more here. We're really excited to be here. We're going to save questions from the press till the end. So if you wouldn't mind just holding those. This is an incredible group. I'm so excited to be here. My name is Laura Sherman. I'm the president of the Michigan Energy Innovation Business Council. We're a trade organization of about 160 members all across the advanced energy industry, including Walker Miller Energy Services, and we're so glad that they were able to host today. It's great to see everyone, including the amazing speakers behind me, the Lieutenant Governor and leaders in the Michigan legislature, including Representative Donovan McKinney right behind me, Senator Stephanie Chang, Senator Sue Schenck, and Representative Jason Morgan. If I missed anybody, I am so sorry. Hopefully I didn't. I'd also like to extend a warm welcome to members of the press and representatives from a wide variety of business, labor, environmental justice organizations here today. Thank you all for coming to listen and learn about this critical report. And with that, I'd like to turn it over to Courtney Burgoyne from Evergreen Action to discuss the report findings.
Thank you, Laura. Hi, everyone. My name is Courtney Burgoyne, and I do policy for Midwest states at Evergreen Action. We're a climate advocacy organization that focuses on helping states leverage federal funds, build clean, equitable, clean energy economies, and meet their climate goals. We've already seen Michigan reaping the benefits of the clean energy transition. Since the passage of the Inflation Reduction Act just 1 year ago, the Michigan economy has brought over $20 billion in new investment, and we've created over 16,000 new jobs for our state's workforce. But now, new modeling from Five Lakes Energy shows that there are more opportunities for our state, $7.8 billion to be exact. To secure these benefits, we need to pass legislation this fall. That must include a 100% clean energy target, an energy waste reduction standard increase, and we must reform the Michigan Public Service Commission so they can ensure our utility companies are delivering reliable, clean, and affordable energy to our residents. This new report found that there are 4 ways that Michiganders will benefit from climate and clean energy policies. First, it's going to slash energy costs for Michigan families by at least $145 a year, and that will happen by the end of this decade. Second, it's going to more than double investment in Michigan if we add federal or state policy on top of federal policy. It's also going to avoid 1,000 premature deaths in our state by 2050 by avoiding pollution. And lastly, it's going to continue increasing our job growth in the state. By 2050, we'll see an additional 160,000 jobs if we pass these policies. This report demonstrates that investing in clean energy and climate mitigation is a win-win-win. We're building a more reliable electric grid, we're lowering costs for our residents, and we're improving the health of our communities. Now, timing and urgency are everything. Delaying these policies by even a year risks Michigan losing out on $1 billion extra in federal investment from the Inflation Reduction Act. Democratic leadership in Michigan has taken a critical first step by introducing legislation to implement the governor's My Healthy Climate Plan. These policies are popular and they're feasible. Let's get them done. Now it is my honor to introduce Carla Walker Miller, CEO of Walker Miller Energy Services. Thanks for having us, Carla.
Thank you, Courtney. And I'd just like to thank everyone for being here, and thank you for citing this event at Walker Miller Energy Services. So welcome. We are a 23-year-old clean energy services company, and we change lives through clean energy. That's how important this issue is. Before I start my comments, I want to mention that we also need to focus on the non-energy benefits. Did you hear Courtney say about deaths? 1,000 deaths. I don't think we pay enough attention to the fact that we really are talking about saving lives. But our team works to drive the broad adoption of not energy efficiency, drive the benefits, but also to help people who have been historically excluded from this industry. One of the things we are is we are a catalyzer of clean energy in our communities, because it's going to take all of us to solve the issue of climate change. It's going to take all of us to solve the issue of low job participation. We talk about low unemployment, but we have low job participation. In the city of Detroit, there is a job participation rate of about 64%. So we really need to help people re-enter the job market, come into clean energy, and help rebuild our cities and our state. This opportunity is going to require technical understanding. It's going to require equity. It's going to require training, but it's going to require every single one of us to be involved. So the policies that are discussed here today, they're going to help companies like mine not just grow, but start and to move from some of the service industries where Black and brown companies are focused into clean energy, where it's quickly growing, the entry ramp is very low, and the salaries are very high. So there's every single reason for us to drive participation in the clean energy industry. And the report does show that Michigan could create 160,000 new jobs just by taking advantage of the policies we've created. Before I pass on to our Lieutenant Governor, in order to help drive everything we're trying to do, we are hosting a Black and Brown Clean Energy Conference called Recess, Resilience and Equity in the Clean Energy Sector Summit, October 30th through November 1st. And we're going to introduce not just people, but technologies that companies and contractors can actually go into to help drive the energy efficiency and the clean energy industry. So I really appreciate you all. I thank you all for joining us in this particular topic because it affects every single one of us. And we keep talking about time. We all need a sense of urgency because time is running out for so many reasons. I think we're more aware of that now than ever before. And now it really is my pleasure to introduce my friend who has been at the head of so many efforts toward equity, economic development, and now is showing leadership for the state in the clean energy economy, Lieutenant Governor Garlin Gilchrist.
First thing I got to do every time I get on a microphone. All right, good morning, everybody. This really is a huge, I think, opportunity for us to identify really what's at stake in Michigan. When we think about the climate crisis, it's important that we frame that, I think, properly. This climate crisis is urgent. We need to act now. We need to act legislatively. We need to act administratively. We need to act in terms of our individual choices that we make as citizens, residents, and consumers. Every business and every sector of our economy has a role to play in contributing to how we respond to the climate crisis. But all of that, I think, can be summarized and can be put together as a tremendous opportunity. Whenever we have deep challenges, what often gets identified are innovative solutions. This is a chance for us to grow, for us to be creative, for us to create access to opportunity. And we need to use this crisis for that effect. One of the central motivations for the My Healthy Climate Plan that the governor and I introduced a year ago, or it was about a year and a half ago now, and that we've seen the legislature introduce legislation earlier in this session to codify, and that we are looking forward to working with them to pass into law before the end of this year. Part of the motivation was that we need to capitalize on the creativity and innovation that exists within the minds and muscles of the people of Michigan to step up to this challenge. Our nation is calling out for leadership in this space, and there is no better place than the state of Michigan to deliver that leadership. And in order for us to truly realize it, we have to make sure that we have the legislative and regulatory framework in place to capitalize on this historic opportunity that's been delivered to us by the Biden-Harris administration, by the Democrats in Congress, well, by the members of Congress who actually voted for the Inflation Reduction Act, which was all the Democrats and not that many Republicans. Every Republican in the Michigan delegation still voted against that, by the way, just to be really clear about what's at stake for this legislation and what it means for the state of Michigan. So if we do the work that we need to do in order to make sure that we are in line and ready to accept, to capitalize upon and mobilize every single federal resource available to us, it will make a tremendous benefit for Michiganders. This report lays this out in more detail than perhaps I've ever seen, but the highlights of it are going to be repeated by every speaker because it's really clear that we make sure this is understood on the simplest possible terms. This will lower costs and make life less expensive for people in Michigan. This will make things less expensive for Michigan families and Michigan businesses once we have our policies aligned to take advantage of the Inflation Reduction Act dollars. This will create a massive amount of jobs and add to the state of Michigan, who is already the #1 state in the country when it comes to clean energy sector job growth. Adding an additional 160,000 jobs on top of that is transformative because those jobs will be created at companies big and small. They'll be created at companies that do not yet exist today, but that entrepreneurial talent will bring to bear. This will lead to the technology transfer and conversion and commercialization of new things that will revolutionize, again, our approach to the climate sector. Those will be jobs that exist in communities where we need to have innovation partnered with environmental justice. This is going to make a tremendous difference for Michigan families. And then last but not least, this will absolutely make Michigan a leader in response to the climate crisis. Again, it makes sense for Michigan to lead this as we are, as everyone here, I hope knows, home to more than 20% of the fresh water on the planet, not in the country, but on the planet. So therefore, we should be leading when it comes to how we manage our water resources, but also the air we breathe and the land that we've been blessed by God to steward. Now, we've taken a lot of approaches to making sure we can do that effectively. And one of which I do want to highlight is from the last budget that we worked with the legislature to pass. We provided funding for something called the Freshwater Innovation Center. And I want to talk about that in this context. The Freshwater Innovation Center is a project that exists in Traverse City, Michigan. And basically, we want people, when they think of freshwater and entrepreneurship, we want them to think of the state of Michigan. This innovation center will bring together researchers and experts from all of Michigan's universities. It'll bring forward entrepreneurs in the freshwater and autonomous space. It'll bring forward electrification resources, again, in northern Michigan, to really show how we can lead the way in what will be groundbreaking technology when it comes to not only energy efficiency, but also how we manage freight when we're talking about supply chains and making them more resilient. There's a number of opportunities that this will create. So I am really incredibly excited about the opportunity before us. Like, we have so much greenfield and green space ahead of us. But it's up to all of us to recognize the role that we play and the responsibility we have to step into that role. The introduction of the My Healthy Climate Plan, we believe, shows the commitment that the governor and I have and will continue to pursue with every tool we have at our disposal that the voters of Michigan gave us. And we are very proud to be working alongside a legislature that for the first time in 2 generations is actually not just excited about this opportunity, but willing to put in the work. This Democratic majority has delivered on a tremendous investments in this budget, the first that's been passed in this context for the first time in 40 years. And I'm so excited that Senator Chang, Senator Shink, Representative Morgan, Representative McKinney, who are here with us today, represent leadership roles in the Michigan legislature who are working to make this happen. I mean, it seems like I keep saying I'm excited a lot, but that's because I know what we're capable of as Michiganders. I know that when we apply our creativity to big problems, we come up with big solutions. I know that we have some of the biggest minds in the country and in the world who can put numbers behind why these policies and practices and programs are so important. And so I'm so thankful to Evergreen for choosing to do this work and partner with 5 Lakes and the other partners to help make this happen, because this will enable us to make the case to more Michiganders and to more Americans about why this is so urgent and critical, but also why it's possible and necessary. So just thank you so much for the leadership. And last but not least, I do want to mention Carla Walker Miller directly and specifically. This woman is an exemplar of what the future of this economic and climate response movement means. She is so generous in terms of how her business benefits more than her customers. And that is the kind of big thinking that we need from people in every sector of our economy in order to get this right and to do it in the right way. So Carla, I just thank you for being you and everything you represent and the leadership that you show. And so now I want to bring forward Senator Stephanie Chang to talk a little bit more about the legislative opportunities that we have this fall and how Michigan is going to take advantage of our leadership opportunity by becoming the leader that we all know that we're capable of. Thank you very much, Senator.
Bring it down.
I think I broke it. Nope. I'm just gonna hold the mic. I'm gonna hold the mic. Thank you so much, Lieutenant Governor. Thank you to Walker Miller for hosting, and to all of those that are involved in putting this report together. My name is Stephanie Chang, and I'm proud to serve as the state senator for Senate District 3, where we are right now, and does include much of Detroit. Here in the city of Detroit, we all know too well that Black and Brown communities have faced disproportionate impacts from pollution. Detroit's asthma rates, childhood asthma, hospitalization rate, heart disease, lower life expectancy, many of these indicators, the list is much longer than that. Many of these indicators are reminders of just how important it is that we tackle environmental justice and climate head on. We've seen the impact of climate change through flooding in our neighborhoods, extreme heat, major storms leading to long power outages, and much more. The report that is being released today highlights the large amount of federal investments that we can bring in, billions of dollars through additional federal tax credits, grants, and rebates by 2035. We can create 160,000 jobs. And I'm just so honored to be here and so proud to support the My Healthy Climate package that is led in the Senate by Senators Sue Schenck and Sam Singh. And these bills set a clean energy standard that is strong and sets us on the right path, increases our energy efficiency, allows for more rooftop solar, and weatherizing more homes. I'll be soon introducing a Senate version of Representative Hill's energy storage target bill to help enable deployment of more cost-effective renewable energy, eliminate the need for fossil fuel burning peaking plants, and increasing reliability, which Michiganders are counting on us to deliver. It is so critical that we take action this fall in the Michigan legislature and prioritize Michiganders' public health by addressing the climate crisis. The report released today is a stark reminder that the clock is ticking on federal dollars, on climate, and our health. We must center environmental justice communities and their needs as details are worked on, and keep our focus on the results that are needed for those who are facing the impact year after year. So thank you again for being here, and I will hand it over to Representative McKinney.
Thank you, Stephanie. Hello, can everybody hear me? There you go. Good morning, everybody. My name is Donovan McKinney, state representative out of the House District 14. That is Northeast Detroit, parts of Macomb County, and Warren and Centerline. I appreciate being invited here to speak along a plethora of respected leaders, and I'm just humbly just honored to be here. So I got the task of really talking about the urgency of what we need to do right now in terms of energy reliability. According to the Citizens Utility Board, our state ranks 10th in the nation for highest residential electricity costs, all while experiencing some of the worst grid reliability. Proposed clean energy policies in Michigan can dramatically reduce household energy costs and protect families from outages and severe weather events. Just like the one, how many people in the room remember the ice storm back in late February? Over 1.2 million people lost power. But in my district alone, we have people who are out of power for 45 consecutive days. Think about that, 45 consecutive days. And it was reported to my office, we lost 7 people. 7 people died in my district. And that's reported. Think about the ones that aren't reported, and you extrapolate that to every single district across the state. I'm sure the numbers are scary. This is unacceptable. This is atrocious. And this part of the legislation we're working on, like my bill, House Bill 4840, and the companion bill, I got to give a shout out to Jen Hill out of Marquette, state representative. She has the companion bill to it. It's going to allow moderate to low income people to really take advantage in this clean energy transition, to really be a part of it. Because those who right now, I think we got a 1% or 2% cap in our state for solar, those who are participating really don't look like me and they don't come from my communities. And so we have to really urge this federal, and we have to dictate and really direct these federal dollars to the most in need, those people who are suffering each and every day. And I got to tell you this, just last week, we had power outages 3 times in my district, just last week. And there were limited storms. We'll have power outages like today. It's a sunny day today. So we have to do our due diligence and make sure that we do something now this fall. And we have to pass this legislation. And I'm going to end by saying this. That's why we need to move forward on clean energy legislation, because it's not just the right thing to do for Michigan's climate. It will also save Michiganders money on their energy bills and allow families to protect themselves from outages. Enough is enough. It's time to act. I'm just so grateful to be here. I want to turn it over again to Laura from MEIBC. Thank you so much for your time.
Got another one. All right. Thank you. Thank you, Representative McKinney. Again, just in case, my name is Laura Sherman. I'm with the Michigan Energy Innovation Business Council. And as I said earlier, we represent businesses across the advanced energy industry. We help work on the report that's being released today, and we conducted a survey of our members basically to ground truth the modeling results that Five Lakes found. And we found that companies like Walker Miller are hiring. 75% of those surveyed expressed that they plan in the next year to hire at least 5 people. And almost 50% of the businesses said they were going to hire more than 50 people. Businesses are also planning on expanding their operations, and many expressed that they could do that even more if state clean energy policies were adopted. We're already seeing this bear out. A report from Climate Power, I think last week, ranked Michigan #1 as the state with the most new clean energy projects since the passage of the IRA. According to that report, these new clean energy projects in Michigan have already spurred more than $21 billion in investment, which is the second highest in the nation, and created or moved forward with 15,800 good paying clean energy jobs, which is the 3rd highest in the nation. So to borrow a phrase that I've heard the Lieutenant Governor say earlier, it's clear that Michigan companies like Walker Miller are already making Michigan the arsenal of decarbonization. Passing clean energy policies at the state legislature will only enhance these opportunities, improving our economy and creating jobs. And with that, I'd like to turn it over to Angana Shah from Michigan United.
Thank you, Laura. Thank you, everyone. Oh, thank you. So, this on? Okay. So I think most of the numbers have been covered by the previous speakers, and I want to thank them for bringing them to light. I think I'm going to be talking about what this can do for communities and households to empower them to take more control of their energy. So climate change is here. We have all smelled, felt, and in some places seen the smoke that came down from the Canadian wildfires. And we cannot build a wall to stop that smoke. But what we can do is do what we can to protect our water, our soil, and greatly reduce our air pollution. As others have said, the effects of climate change, air pollution, fossil fuels falls disproportionately on brown and Black communities. We can do this transition with equity and lift some of that. When the smoke came down, and I was obsessed with the air quality numbers, they were higher in all the communities where air pollution is currently higher, all the communities we're talking about. Naturally, if you layer smoke over existing air pollution, it's going to be a higher number, it's going to have worse effects, and it's going to lock people in their houses for longer. What we can do is, in addition to lowering people's energy bills, which I thank the legislature and the governor for making it a goal to limit energy bills to 6% of income. This is the beginning of energy democracy. But in addition to that, we can empower communities and households to begin to generate their own energy, to have the freedom to determine where their energy comes from, to ride out outages with battery storage. Municipal utilities did much better in the February storms and since as far as outages. I believe the numbers were overwhelming as far as the percentage of their customers. I wish I had them right at my fingertips. I forgot them. But in addition to municipalities, community solar has great potential to empower communities to control locally the generation, the storage, and distribution via and lower costs for their residents. But for that to happen, we need the laws that enable community solar, much more rooftop storage. The 1% cap has been mentioned, and that opens the door to the federal dollars that have been allocated for this transition. I believe that we have deadlines to apply for this money. So I would like to urge all of us to support our legislators that are here by calling all our other legislators and asking them to make this a priority in the beginning. I believe one of the facts that was in the report is that consumers can save $5.5 billion by 2050. That money goes to households. It can be reinvested in the economy. All of this, though, depends on the legislation passing, those dollars being accessed. And I want to thank the governor, the lieutenant governor, the legislature for bringing this about 2 years ago. When I was working with Laura, we were trying to get just the solar cap lifted for individuals who wanted to do it. And now we're looking at statewide action. I also want to give credit to the federal government. When we're talking about empowering people at that local level, the argument I hear is they can't afford it. Well, guess what? If we can access that money, they can. The subsidies that have been provided not only apply to the costs of solar energy, they apply to prepping, say, a roof, weatherizing a house, upgrading an electrical system. So all of this together means we are on the brink of really, really empowering people to take control of their costs, their access, and reliability of energy. We need the legislation, but I believe that it's imminent. But let's kind of help it get over the finish line and flood the phone lines, okay? And the offices if you can get to Lansing.
Great. I think we'd like to open it now to questions, especially from the press, and I'll try to direct to the right person, or you can tell me the right person. And if you have questions about the report, we have Douglas Jester here from Five Lakes Energy who can answer those. Yes.
We're supportive of the more aggressive standard. No, it means we get to get extra credit for going faster. Well, I think the report lays out what the opportunity is for updates to our legislative and regulatory framework. And so a lot of those were called out here. And by codifying the mildly climate plan, that will be a pretty significant unlock. So I don't want to call that an Achilles heel. I'll call that as like a solution in waiting in terms of how we're able to pass this. And I think, you know, whether it's through the infrastructure we've set up through the Michigan Infrastructure Office and others, we've put in place an apparatus to work very closely with our delegation, very closely with the Biden-Harris administration to try to draw down as many federal dollars as possible, both for this purpose and frankly, for all the others. I mean, let's talk about expanding access to the internet. For example, Michigan received the fourth most funding in the country when it came to the broadband equity access on the BEAD program, almost 1.4, we've hit $2.5 billion overall thus far. So we're looking to compete for every single resource that we can. I have a consistent call with Mayor Mitch Landrieu in the White House, who's the infrastructure sort of coordinator for them, to make sure that we can compete more aggressively than perhaps Michigan ever has for federal resources. So that certainly applies here. But I think being able to take full advantage of those resources at the state level is what's going to give us the runway, so to speak, to be able to really capitalize on the opportunity.
And if I may speak to that from a hyper local, is really having people trained who can take advantage of those $160,000, 160,000 jobs. Workforce development, we should be training, right now we're training tens to hundreds of people. We need to be training thousands of people to be technicians, to be energy auditors, to be contractors who are actually blowing insulation and upgrading homes and businesses. So they're working really hard to get the money, and we have to work really hard to get the people who are actually going to do the work.
And just to add to the Lieutenant Governor and piggyback off him, we have to set the regulatory framework. So we have to set the legislation up as a pass through once we attract these federal dollars into the state. I know in the Senate, I think Senator Chang talked about it with Senator Shushink and Jeff Irwin. They have some legislation in the Senate. We do as well in the House, myself, Jen Hill, as well as I believe Speaker Pro Tem Lori Pahusky, which is working on the big My Healthy Climate legislation, as well as our majority floor leader of the House, Abraham Ayash. So once we get those through, hopefully when we return in session after Labor Day, we'll be able to attract some dollars, and you're going to see that difference in those investments. And like Carla Walker Miller talked about, it's preparing the workforce to really transition us into a clean energy future. So I'm excited about it. If you got any more questions, just let us know. But we're going to work very hard this fall. Yes, go ahead. I don't have any concerns about it. I think it's the governor wants it done. I think we're going to be able to get it done. I'm not sure if some of my colleagues want to speak about it, but I think we'll be able to get it done probably in the next couple of months before the holiday. So I want to leave it there.
So in terms of those stakeholder comments, I can tell you that many of them have already been incorporated into the House versions. So some of those were very positive. They weren't all negative. They weren't all concerned. Some of them were like, you go, girl. So I'm not concerned. We've been working hard over summer. It hasn't actually been a break, but it's been an opportunity to work on this legislation. I feel very confident about our ability to get it done.
Oh, yeah, I'll just add to that to say, from a newer House member, I am extremely excited to see how much is coming at us this fall in this space. I think there are a lot of folks who've been pushing for some of these policies for a long time, and to make sure that we're not just doing them quickly, but doing them comprehensively is so critically important. And I'm very excited to see all of the bills that are coming into this space and this package. So I'm very excited to be voting for these things as soon as possible this fall. Thanks.
So we're like conferring back here. Okay, I should just not touch this mic. Okay. So I know that, and you may recall that in committee in the Senate, there was a lot of conversation from some of our labor stakeholders about the need for just transition office. I know that's something that a lot of us are very supportive of, and something that I think is badly needed. And, we talked about the workforce. We've got to make sure that that we're preparing folks who will be transitioning from other the landscape of jobs is going to change, but it's going to change in a positive way. But of course, we've got to make sure that we are providing the resources for those workers whose jobs may be changing. So I believe that the Just Transition Office is a great idea. It's something that a lot of us are very supportive of, and there may be other topics that are being considered, but I know that that is one for sure that is a priority.
Excuse me. I'm Douglas Chester. I'm managing partner of Five Lakes Energy. My team authored the report. The vast majority of the federal funds are driven in two categories. One is the investments in clean energy, renewable and potentially nuclear. And the other is investments in energy efficiency in buildings. And the pace at which the federal funds comes, these are uncapped tax credits. So the more we do, the more money comes. Will determine how much we get. There is a sunset around 2032 on many of those funds. So if we are too slow, we forego that opportunity. So that's really the essence of the challenge, is how fast can we progress on these activities that the tax credits are intended to support.
Sounds like we just have time for one more question. There's one more. Or we can wrap it there. All right. Oh, one more. She has one more.
I would love to have bipartisan support here. I think that there frankly is no argument against it. There's no good argument against investing in a clean energy future in Michigan, a future that makes Michigan a more aggressive state in leadership when it comes to conservation, a future that makes Michigan a more aggressive state when it comes to the innovation in the energy sector. These jobs that are being created, that will be created with us being able to tap into all these federal resources, will exist in every community in the state of Michigan, whether you're represented by a Republican or a Democrat in the state legislature. And so I hope that all of us who have been charged with public service by the voters of Michigan will step up to the plate in this opportunity. And we welcome that in the legislative process, in the committee process. There has been ample opportunity. There have been concerns that have been raised by Republican counterparts that have been addressed already and will continue to be taken seriously. And we hope that when these do come to the vote for the floor, that they will have bipartisan support, because of the right thing to do for every person in every community in every corner of the state of Michigan. And we think that we can be a leader on that as well. So regardless of what happens with the elections that you're referring to, just like Governor Whitmer and I hope that every piece of legislation that we put forward can earn bipartisan support, we feel the same way about this package.
The precincts.